Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you it is another Friday night ZOG Comics review. Yes, it's that time again for you to take your bitter pill medicine. The truth will not be denied. It is time for ZOG Comics review. How are you, Mr. Dillard Q. Thurman of
I'm
ZOG
doing
Comics? Yeah,
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a
yeah,
little
yeah.
exhausted at the breaknecks.
Exhausted. Really?
Oh
Like
yeah.
how many hours a day do you work typically?
Average I'm getting 12. I'm doing the 12 shift.
Tox is here. Hey Tox, you're first. You are number one. Nice.
But you know
Um,
the
yeah.
the sweet just, isn't sweet without the bitter. So
Oh,
you got to have that bitter.
I've never really bought that. Like you don't know what happiness is unless you know what pain is. Nah, no, I'll pass. I'll
Let me
pass.
introduce you to a world of
Yeah.
pain now.
Yeah, I believe me, I'm a king of pain. I totally know. King of pain.
It's a line from that movie Vanilla Sky.
Which one was
That
that? The line, I mean. I know the movie.
oh, the sweet just ain't as sweet without the bitter.
Oh, that's what that's from? Okay. That's a good film. I liked it.
It was good.
I I don't know when it came out. It's probably like the 90s, 2000s or something. It's quite
I
a
think it
while
was
ago.
2001. Yeah.
But what a zing surprise ending to it. It's just kind of really neat
Tech
science.
support.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Uh,
It's a nightmare. Tech
oh,
support.
yeah. But like just the idea of like he was in like cryogenic cryogenic suspension and
Yeah.
he's just dreaming the whole time and it's pretty trippy shit. The
He
the
was
one
in
thing
a.
I
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say he's kind of in that Philip K. Dick
Yeah,
virtual world.
yeah, there you go, something of that nature. I think the other thing I liked about it is that from at the time it seemed like what's his face? Tom Cruise was finally doing a role that was like different from his usual stuff, where he's like,
A
I
cocky
fly.
asshole.
Yeah, like I'm the alpha male, or some bullshit like just, I fly airplanes, blah, whatever. And
Yeah.
here his face is all smashed up and he's ugly as hell, and so it was refreshing to see him do a role like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He played the tragic figure instead of just
Hmm. Yeah,
the winner.
yeah,
Oh
the
wow.
winner.
Tax
Yeah.
is it's morning for her.
Yes, yes, she is on the other side of the planet. Oh boy, oh boy. Well, it's funny because she's sleepy and we're sleepy, but we're different sides of the cycle, though.
We're up late. She's up early.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Um, but yeah, this is sort of close to the end of the week for me. I work Saturdays. I've got a really good buddy coming for a visit tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. So I don't think I'll be doing my usual Saturday night dancing because we haven't hung out in a while, and it's one of those catch-up things. Ah, but yeah. What's been on your mind? As far as like news of the world or whatever.
Uh, I've been thinking about because I think about like topics that that I like research and then maybe bring up on the show.
Yeah.
And I've been my usual topics are sort of psychological mind control, social
Hmm.
engineering type stuff. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about magic recently, so I downloaded an
Ooh,
audio book about the history of magic.
wow.
Um,
What have you
be-
learned so far?
well, ancient magic is kind of what you expect it to be, like talismans and
Mhm.
good luck charms, and to ward off evil spirits and that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right.
Like putting aloe vera above the doorway, kind of thing.
All right.
And I like all that stuff. It's very folk,
Yes.
you know,
Sure. Sure.
traditional
Yeah. Yeah.
type stuff that our people
Hmm.
loves to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then it kind of turned at some point. It seems as I mean I think there's always been also that aspect of it of curses because the evil eye I think is very ancient, the concept of the evil eye,
Okay.
or a harbinger of bad news, or what is that, things to come kind of thing, a bad sign, an omen,
Omens. Okay.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then it turned into intercourse with the devil.
Oh,
So,
I see. Like after Christianity kind of came in to the picture.
yeah.
What you mean?
And
Yeah.
then I don't know, the idea of ultimate evil um was sort of introduced to the world, whereas before it was just competing tribes.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
think and I think that is, it takes us out of what really matters, and what really is good about the world. And I think
What
that
what takes us out of that?
the idea of ultimate evil, like we're going to fight a spiritual battle with
Mm,
ultimate evil, and that it reminds me of just it makes me think of just false consciousness. Like you are
hmm
identifying now with, like, a fight against good and evil, instead of a sort of group mentality. Like what is good is what's good for
The
the
group.
collective of your group.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Now we're
Wow.
fighting the devil and evil.
Which is a kind of an abstraction in a sense, you know. I think, of
Yeah.
course, the danger is that like anything you don't like is the devil. On
Yeah.
I put a post on Instagram a while ago. There was one of these talk shows, and the guy was talking to a woman who is does remote viewing, and he
Oh.
asked. The clip was her asking her, "So, did you ever remote view the crucifixion?" And she not flipped out, but she acted very, very strangely, like
Yeah.
she got terrified and she wouldn't talk about it. And it was a really weird reaction. It was a very
Huh.
telling reaction. And I had studied that myself. I have a lot to say on the topic of magic, by the way, so this could be a subject for conversation today. But so I'd researched a lot on remote viewing, and I had come across another person who said that they remote viewed the crucifixion and basically had another story to tell. It was something like Jesus, he's a political, uh, not prisoner, but like radical or something. Like they wanted to kill him. Okay, they wanted to kill him. The Pharisees wanted to kill him for political reasons, and his disciples wanted to like get him out of the city and hide him somewhere, like escape basically, to save his life. And so apparently Jesus had a brother named Thomas, and Thomas went instead of Jesus,
Oh.
and was while Jesus kind of got whisked away to some other place. And I, all I did was basically say what I saw in the report. I didn't say that I believe this or that I stand by this 100%, or I was just like, yeah, here's some news on the topic. And
Yeah.
I've cannot to this day, I still get crazy Christians like just flipping out on me, like replying like, "Oh, the devil! Oh, you're crazy! You
The
are blaspheming!" Blah, blah, blah. Like every kind of like retarded, superstitious bullshit they could say. All the what do you call it? The super no cliches of Christians is this they were acting that way, and
the
I you know
devil's
I
planting thoughts.
yeah, and I'm like, look, guys, I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just telling you this is what somebody else reported, and blah 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 blah. They just don't fucking think. They can't think that they don't. So like when people respond like that, frankly, it is a sign that they're not really confident of their beliefs, because if you have to
Mm.
kind of attack somebody so viciously, then you don't have confidence in what you believe. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I mean,
I mean,
not all.
yes.
There were some people that were like, okay, this scripture says that, and blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, whatever. But and then on the second hand, I'm up to like something like 14,400 likes on that video. So there's like a lot of people that liked the video, that are not, in the comments because they don't care to get torn apart or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's my thinking is that this whole psyop, if you want to call it, is really so that the Vatican can corner the market on magic. Do you get
Mm.
what I'm saying? And it's not just the Vatican, of course. Like magic is a deep, deep, deep part of Kabbalah, of the Jewish tradition. It's a really, really huge part of it. So, and then magic, as I describe it, is really just science that we don't understand yet. That's essentially what I call it. Anyway, let's say a quick hello to a couple people in here. Of course, my dear friend Taxis here, American Counter Rev. Hello, good evening to CG, my main man. Hippocratic Oath. Is this the Snow White review? Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of great memes about that, but like, I'd rather tear my eyes out than watch that movie. Basically.
Yeah.
Texas. So what that mean? You guys not fully believe in Jesus? Well, it's a hot potato. It's a hot topic. I don't know that I really want to go there. I'm just not in the mood for that conversation right now. It's kind of I
Oh.
think it's just. Oh, I mean, you can talk about it if you want. I'm not stopping you. I
Well,
just
the
you know I got my own thoughts on the matter, and I have a. Go ahead. You say what you got to say. You do your thing.
well, real shortly, it's interesting the idea that whomever the historical person that the Jesus character was based off of,
Yeah.
I've heard that maybe a man named Judas Crestus, and that he faked his own death,
Yes.
and then he came back, you know,
Right.
and kind of lived a more solitary life afterwards, and
Right. Right.
but was turned on by the Pharisees because he was an agitator, and
Right.
the Pharisees were not all about. They weren't about a violent takeover of Rome, and that he was in fact crucified by the Romans
Of
for
course.
agitation.
Of course.
Whoever this historical character was, or actual person.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I find that very interesting. I haven't heard the Thomas angle that he took his place.
Yeah. And again, that's just somebody's report. Like I can't, say like I didn't do the remote viewing myself. Um, I'll say that I have a relationship with Jesus, but I don't believe it's the Jesus that, or quite the same Jesus that most Christians know. The I think the Jesus that I know is Gnostic. Um, I feel like the Bible, as far as I can tell, is like deeply coded. I feel like the entire Old Testament should be removed. I wouldn't call that Christianity. That's Judaism. Um, I think that there's at the core of what Jesus was teaching is compatible with some of the teachings of the Buddha, and like all my views of Jesus are essentially heretical. So that's why it's complicated for me to try to like yes and no. You get my point? Like yes, it is, but no, it isn't because it's not your Bible thumping Jesus kind of thing. I
It's
guess
an
the
Aryan.
go
Oops,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'd say it's an Aryan motif connected to an archetype. It's the rising and dying hero god, the sun god,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very
So
yeah, it's
yeah,
it's
I
in
think
deep in our consciousness.
well, you're tapping into something extremely important, which is the archetypal meaning of Jesus, which to me is more important than the historic Jesus. Like the spiritual technology of Jesus to me is more important than
Ooh, I like that.
the historic man. You know, I mean, in the end, isn't it kind of the same for all men? Like, what was the legacy that Uncle A left? You know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the things that they did, and you know, the message they left for the world, and how did it help the world, in what way? Um, and the other thing about it too is that I feel like it's super personal, and I don't like kind of talking about things that are that personal in a casual, cavalier way. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
absolutely.
I mean, if it's
Every
sacred, go ahead. If just last thing, if it's a sacred thing, then why would I just blather about it? You know
right,
what I mean?
and that's the
Yeah,
blasphemy part of it, and I think that's why
exactly,
they
exactly.
it's so effective because everybody has this aspect of themselves where they live mythically in their head and they have a spiritual part of themselves, and if it's an
Mm,
actual archetype, then it is really
mm, mm,
deeply rooted in our consciousness. It's kind of the
mm.
bedrock or foundational a
Yeah, yeah.
foundational block of our
Mm,
consciousness or human consciousness
mm.
generally.
That's beautiful. The thing that I'm always suspicious of is the social packaging of Christianity. I To me, I'm an outsider. I'm a Sigma wolf, and like anything that everybody's doing, I'm automatically suspicious of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just can't go along with it because I feel like I'm just a sheep. You know, that alone is like why I would not do a certain thing. You know, like anything. You know, and that's maybe not even rational to an extent. You know what I mean? Um, but it's who I am. You know?
I'm unfortunately it's used for political purposes,
Yeah.
and therefore it must be talked about, because if it was just someone's god that they keep, a personal relationship with and pray to or fend off evil spirits with, that would be one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a geopolitical
Yeah.
football, or it's
Mm-hmm.
Christian nationalism is a big psyop right now. Not, it's always Christian nationalism, not anything racially based. Like that's the worst. Like that's what we don't want, because our enemies, that's what they have done for themselves, and they're the
Uh,
only ones that are allowed to. And
you're. Go ahead. That's how
that's how
what?
they win.
That's how
That's
they
how
went.
they
So
win.
you're 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 really touching on a really important topic that is something that we could get into here. So just a couple days ago, I actually looked up Christian nationalism on like YouTube, and naturally it's YouTube, so of course they're not like all of the videos are going to be negative about it, you know.
Yeah.
And you've got, I remember that one of the videos was this black congressman at some kind of like hearing, and he was just bashing Christian nationalism, like he was just going off on it and basically equating it with white nationalism.
Yes.
So they already have all the dialectic locked in. Do you understand? Like
Hmm.
it's already there. The script has been written, and they're all ready to just start in with the bullshit narrative of, you know, Christian nationalism is white nationalism. So there's a weird kind of it is and it isn't kind of thing, because it does represent, frankly, a large portion of it represents just like rural American folk, which are mostly white.
Hmm.
And there is something to say for the fact that Christianity is a very major part of Western civilization, culture, art, architecture, philosophy, blah 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 blah. It it is. You know what I mean? It's a giant part of our history.
Oh yeah.
So like my thinking is that could Christian nationalism be? Is it something we should get behind uh, for pushing white nationalism? Do you get my point?
Yeah, like a means to an end kind of thing.
Yes, yes, yes. And I at this point I think yes, because I don't know any other way to collectivize rural whites specifically, of any whites, but like that seems to be the only thing that is available right now where everybody is on board and they all believe in that one thing, and it unifies them. Does that make sense?
It does, and
Yeah.
that's it's a strategy that has been, I think,
Mhm.
tried over and over again, and that's why it's such a.
Okay.
I mean, you got Father Coughlin, you had the I forget his name, Gerald Smith, who opposed uh, George Lincoln Rockwell in the '70s,
Oh, okay.
and you have a lot of you know attempts at Christian nationalism, but I think that ultimately it's psyopable to the point where it's almost it's
Mm-hmm.
promoted for its ineffectualism, but it gets to, I think, like a Jungian sort of archetype that's, in my opinion, has been hijacked. But in Kabbalah,
Yeah.
Jesus Jesus is the scapegoat, and also he's used as a scapegoat, and he's like Satan. They've
Mm.
like kind of papered over him, or he's the Samael kind of stuff. So Jews created a sort of I don't want to get too far into it because it is a touchy it is
Yeah.
very sensitive.
Yeah, it is. I know.
Yeah, and I don't want to alienate anybody with that, but I
That's
do
another side of it, but go on. Yeah.
but I do think that it is just too far in their favor to try to wield for our own. It's not ours to wield.
Okay, now that right there puts a cap on it. You know what I'm saying? I think it's too, like, the Jews have much too much leverage in Christianity already. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Yeah, I get your point. Let's take a moment to look at the chat. There's quite a bunch of talk going on in here, and I want to see if anyone's talking about me behind my back. No, I'm kidding. Um,
In front of
so moving on, American Counter Rev, you said that the real Jesus was an anti-Roman agitator, but in the Bible he taught to forgive Romans and give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God. So there you go. I'm a Christian, by the way. Very good. Talk says, I don't believe in it, but I'm curious about Bible, respect of religion, no hate. That's totally fine. I mean, we're not the people to talk to learn about Christianity. You would want to talk to a Christian properly, who can genuinely represent the religion. That's not to say, I mean, I have a really powerful relationship with God. And even just today, I was actually questioning how much do I really trust God? Because I'm the way that I live, I feel like fear is the opposite of faith and trust. And if you're going to claim to have a relationship with God and be spiritual in some way, then you have to trust God. You can't be living out of fear, I think. Does that make sense to anybody? So that's just my personal struggles here in the desert of my life. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of directions we could go with all of this stuff.
I think the
Um,
concept of God is interesting. Just in that, like, he organizes the universe and happenings and is involved in individuals' lives and what happens to them and their experience in their lives on the planet and stuff. Like, I
mhm,
mean, that goes back to ancient times, who when they would pray to their deity for good luck, or safe
mhm,
passage, or
mm.
whatever.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but it's an interesting topic. It's something I care about deeply and I think about deeply. But at the same time, whenever I talk about it, I try to be cautious. I don't ever want to come off like I'm preaching, or I know
Yeah.
what I kind of know what I know, if that makes sense. Like, I have found my own answers. Um and I know that some people aren't going to be happy with it. So Christianity itself is, again, it's such a hot topic that I feel like there's a lot of potential for alienating our people, and that's the last thing we want to do. So, but at the same time, if people want to have an intelligent conversation, go for it. I just would need somebody. I mean, I don't know how to say this. It's like Tox wants to learn about Christianity. Then you got to find somebody, who's properly represent it. Me being more of a Gnostic, that would be the story I would tell. And I don't know, not only that, it's so profoundly complicated. There's so many. I guess one of the biggest problems I have is that I don't know what to trust in history. To me, like automatically, anything that comes from the Jews, I don't trust. Anything, everything, and anything. Hey there, CG. Donald Kent Talk Radio. You got it, bro. Um,
Well, and they took over the universities as well with the through the Jesuits. So
yeah, you
so
got
they
Freemasonry. I mean, there's so many Jewish psyops going on that you know and I think that Christians lose their critical thinking because of the social culture of Christianity, which is, a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be part of a church community and share faith and be a part of all that. That's beautiful. I grew up with that. My family was devout Catholic. I grew up a devout Catholic, not just a Catholic, but like a hardcore Catholic. And so I know that feeling, and I miss it terribly. I miss that sense of comfort of knowing like everything in the world falls into place and it all makes sense and everything's in order, you which
yeah,
I don't see or feel that much anymore. And instead,
it's a comfy it's a comfy feel for sure.
yeah, and I mean, these are the things that I struggle with a bit. I think that there are great people out there that can speak to that and have answers for pretty much all of that stuff. If I had my friend Tyler Hamilton on the show right now, he would speak very eloquently about these things. Um, but yeah, I don't know. This is what it is.
It's
So
interest. Oh, sorry.
yes, go on. What's
I was just
interesting?
gonna. It's interesting, sort of how when you're a child, things affect you, and that's your that's how you start off, and that becomes like comfy in your sense of community and everything like that. I grew up going to Baptist church,
Oh
and I actually
wow,
listened to I listened to only Christian rock in my teen years.
wow, gosh,
So
you're really cut off.
well, I mean, not I branched out after some time, but yeah, it's I think as a child, you sort of have a family experience and a childhood experience, and that just becomes who you are. And then someone comes along and being like, "Yeah, it's all bullshit," and it's like an attack on
Yeah,
your family. And I think just a primal sort of "you're trying to separate me from my family right now" kind of
yeah,
thing
yeah,
happens,
yeah, yeah.
and it may not even be conscious, but
Right, right.
it might prevent people from thinking about something like that critically.
Big time,
But
big time.
yeah, and some people just maybe never need to, um, you know, think about it critically and are able to arrive at our position, the correct position with
Hmm. Hmm.
politics and everything. So
Yeah. Um, the other thing too is I've had a long day and I'm kind of tired. I'm not at my best right now, so I don't feel like I'm on my toes as much as I usually am.
yeah,
A
me
little
too.
bit. Yeah, I'm just you know these kind of topics.
I'm
they're they're
already
they, they're
stressing
fucking
you.
heavy hitter topics. It's like you're going in the ring and fighting the Hulk, and it's like you better be ready. And I'm like, shit, man, I had a long day. Cut me
Yeah, I'm
some
sorry.
slack, bro. No, no, no. Well, that's what I love about you. We're both similar in that regard. We like these things. It's the stuff that matters in life, really, if you think about it. What was the phrase like? Don't talk about politics or religion. I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Those are the most important things.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that in and of itself is sort of a psyop. It's
oh,
just
yes,
let's just go with the status quo and just conform. Don't ask
right.
questions.
You nailed
Just
it.
consume product.
Yep, that is it, bro. You hit it on the head. You hit it right on the head. So,
But I wonder where the sort of intersection of psychology and magic. That's where I'm kind of
Hmm.
interested in. I've been listening to War Strike. Warren and Stryker did a show about
Carl
Jung.
Jung. Jung.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Okay. Go on.
he was very sympathetic to Uncle A and
Oh.
the Germans,
Oh yeah.
and he talked about the Wotan spirit and how he unlocked the Wotan spirit, and it's just it was dormant in the German psyche at the time, and
How
he channeled it and unlocked it.
how very interesting, because I just saw a clip of far greater than the father archetype.
Christ
And
consciousness.
he went like full Nazi in I mean in his own Austrian way. But anyway, a friend of mine's got like his Carl Jung's essay on Hitler as the Odin embodiment, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to reading that. I think that's quite powerful.
Yeah, and he kind of did that. He connected racial consciousness to God and gods and
Mhm.
the sort of spiritual realm. I mean, we've always done it. You know, you honor your ancestors, and now
Mhm,
all of a
mhm.
sudden we're supposed to think that they were evil, and I just refuse
Yeah,
to.
I know that whole white man bad bullshit is so tired, so tired. Let me see if there's anything going on in the chat. What do we got? Hippocratic Oath says, and then there is Giorgiani, who poops on Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity.
Oh yeah, well he
This
loves Zoroastrianism.
Yeah, that's a gigantic rabbit hole right there for sure. Talk says, "Hey, Mr. Kent, tell Zog you are Zog." That's pretty funny.
I
How
am Zog.
I kneel before Zog. That's funny, dude.
I will
Anyway,
debank you if you don't.
yeah. Well, kneel before Zod is the line from Superman, but
Oh
Zog
yeah,
is
okay.
so I'm little Superman. See, come on, man. This is comics. This is superheroes. We got to make superhero jokes. Anyway, she says, "Tell Zog hi from me, and tell him that he's got a good friend in you, Mr. Kent." Aw,
Oh.
aw. So we got a sweet moment right there. Thank you, Tox. You always bring a little sweetness to the show. Thank you, hon. CG, he says it's all good, Kent. All right. Yeah. Hi, Brandon. Brandon is back. Brandon always wants me to draw Batman. One of these days, Brandon, one of these days, we'll hit you up, buddy. That's just Zog, like doing some mouthwash right there. Don't.
Oh, yeah. I always forget just how certain noises pick up just terribly through the microphone.
It's the first time
Grating,
I heard that, I was like, why are you doing mouthwash right now in the middle of the show?
swishing. Yeah,
Yeah, hey, it's that dental health. You got to take care of your teeth.
it's important.
No, it's just funny. Wow,
But
man, we're all over the map tonight.
uh, getting back to Jung though, when he disconnected from um, Freud,
Yeah.
apparently they needed a goy frontman, and they were
Okay.
groomsting Jung to be the that the goy frontman for
Oh,
the whole thing, but
okay.
he wouldn't go along with the sex stuff, and he wrote a
Yeah.
whole essay about the sex stuff and how the Jewish mind is
Yeah.
kind of just it kind of reduces everything to
Yeah.
dirty jokes.
Wow. So there's a really, really, really wonderful movie. It's got some of my favorite actors in it. Uh, I can't remember the name of it. Somebody can look it up. Probably Hippocratic Oath would know. It's about the life of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, and it's specifically about Carl Jung's affair with one of his patients who had like a sex
Oh,
addiction, a sex addiction of some kind.
and this is
And
Carl Jung.
this is yes. So whatever. Let me just speak. So Viggo Mortensen plays Carl Jung. Not Carl Jung. Sigmund Freud. And at
Oh
some point
wow.
in there, he does mention, us Jews are in danger because of Germany and blah blah blah, and like the little things are kind of woven in. Um, Michael Fassbender is Carl Jung, and like it's just I don't know. I love it. It's and I can't remember the woman's name. She's a British actress that I'm like have a massive crush on her. She's one of these, you know, how you have crushes on actresses, you know. So anyway, somebody can look that up in the chat if you wanna. But incredible film. I guess because it's about Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, it wasn't like, you know, a popular film or something, right? Because like people actually have to think. What? No way! I gotta think about shit. Oh my god.
Well, it's kind
Anyway,
of an accusation that was leveled against Freud, that he slept with his patients. Like,
so right, this film might be false. You know what I'm saying? That it might be like some Jews made the film and they did it to like fuck up the legacy of Carl Jung, which is very likely. That's probably the case. But I don't know. Watch the film and tell me what you think. That's I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, Viggo Mortensen as Freud is interesting because he's so Aryan.
Well, yeah, I mean, both of those actors are top quality actors. So you put them both in a film together, and then again, I don't remember the woman's name, but like she's top of the line. So let's read some chat here. Dee. American Counter Rev
Oh,
says the
good night,
stream.
talks.
Oh, okay. Good night, talks. Counter Rev says the stream is breaking up. I
Oh,
I'm not having any. Whose audio is breaking up? Is it mine or his or both? Let's see. Moving. Oh crap. Victorian time traveler Hall hails Donald. I'm out for a walk in the beautiful desert juniper tree forest. Gosh, that sounds marvelous.
ooh.
Oh man, I wish I were there. Hippocratic oath. Ugh, Young had multiple mistresses. It would be hard to identify just one. Good night, Mr. Kent and Zog. Da da da. Uh, she always says, "Don't push yourself. You have to. You get tired. Go to sleep." She's like my grandma. Um. Anyway,
Take care
Hippocratic
of
oath.
yourself, Kenty
Yeah.
or Donnie.
Yeah. You're gonna get sick. You'd better dress warmly.
Wear a
Eat your
scarf.
eat your matzo balls and do your homework. Anyway, I'm getting pretty good at that. My that's not bad.
Oh
Anyway,
God.
Hippocratic. Yeah. Oh God. Oh God. Hippocratic oath says no audio problem that I've noticed. Okay, good. I don't know if we're getting zogged or what's going on here, but
Hey. Oh wait,
yeah.
no, never mind.
What?
No, I was just joking.
Oh,
As if that was my name now. I
oh,
I, I should be offended.
right. Tell Zog. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there you go, and now you know.
Well, I don't it's not surprising, that he would have mistresses. I've, further north you go, I've heard the sort of sexual mores. They're less prudish,
Yeah.
in Europe. Like, I mean, of
Okay.
course, like the nude beaches or and stuff. Like the body, they're not ashamed of their body, whereas America sort of adopted a more puritanical attitude towards
Mm,
sexuality, and I think that I think that is Judaic a lot,
really.
because if you look at our pagan ancestors, it was just like, yeah, well, sex is sex,
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, of course, we do arrive at traditional values and everything,
Yeah.
which is a survival strategy for us, of course.
Yeah.
Especially in Europe, you settle down. I think that of course, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think that sexual prudishness sort of leads to fetishization and unhealthy sexual appetites.
Because it's repressing it. Is that why?
It's repressing it, and it's creating a taboo kind of
Mm.
thing around it. And then I mean, there's something to suppression, and this is a large part of how we're controlled, get
Okay.
into like sort of like mass mind control and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something about the Aryan mind that they can unlock, to over sexualize the culture, make everything sort of taboo and fetishistic and everything, instead of just allowing it to be a natural thing.
I
Instead, we
see.
have to, you know,
So, okay, so like by suppressing it through Christianity, you then kind of make it, I don't know, out of control, for lack of a better term, through things like rock and roll and hip hop and like all this other kind of rebel culture. Is that kind of what you're
yeah,
saying?
they want to control how it's expressed. So if you were to just go
Mm,
the if you were to live in the church, for example, you're married to the church, or you're a nun, you're married to Jesus,
okay.
and then the obverse of that is the other side of that is you're having intercourse with the devil. If you're
Jesus.
a pagan, like accusations,
All right. All right.
were like leveled against people. So it's this sort of like sexual impropriety
Yeah.
is a main focus of the church. And if you read the monks,
Mm,
um, their works, they're always tempted by a slave girl or a boy, and the demons will appear in different ways, and like these are just weird
yeah.
isolated men
Yeah.
who are denying their own
Yeah.
biology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah. And so somehow naturally homosexuality comes out of that, because
yeah.
they're just around each other. That's pretty sickening. That's very sickening. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a friend of mine who's like a biblical scholar is like, nowhere in the Bible does it say that, did Jesus say anything about you should make a church? And the church that is supposedly in the Bible is essentially the community of the people who follow
Hmm.
Christ. It's not an institution like the Vatican, and
Yeah.
where this concept of like priests should be celibate comes from, like who where the hell, you do have to wonder about shit like that. It's an
Well,
interesting question.
I think they watch us and they study us. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
you're
I mean
very
that's
right.
how
You're very right.
they they construct their narratives to control us with.
Mm,
And I mean, they're obsessed with us.
that's very true.
They invented psychology for a reason. And then
Oh God, yeah.
the story of Freud, just as an anecdote real quickly, he didn't just arrive at seduction theory, which is basically that mental illness arises from sexual oppression. He first looked at all his patients and came to the conclusion that they had all been abused sexually as children. And then he came out with the conclusion that mental illness comes from abuse in childhood, and
Mm,
that pretty much pans out. But then he was met by the rabbis and his
mm,
community,
yeah.
and one a very telling thing about their community, because all his patients at the time were Jewish, would be
Uh-huh.
exposed.
Oh wow, wow.
The big problem in the Jewish community. And second, that kind of information is reserved for, I think, that them. They keep
Yeah.
like the
That,
real stuff for themselves.
sure, 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 sure.
And then he came up with seduction theory for the goyim, which
So
is yeah.
I'm really impressed with how you're treating this topic. I think that it's important for the audience and people who come across this show to understand how deeply, profoundly obsessed the Jews are with the goyim, and understand studying us to the point like the way we would study animals, and like
Hmm.
how do you control, how do you corral this animal, how do you control the breeding of an animal. We are animals to them. That's
Yes.
what goyim is cattle, and that we are their cattle according to their so-called religion. So it's just diabolical, and it's crazy because I know people that, like, I've shown them all the data that there is on the Jews, but yet still, even after seeing all the truth, there's still a kind of desire to deny it. And it's
Hmm.
just like, well, yeah, but it's not nice to say that or some shit. And I'm like,
Yes.
you do realize the fucking scale of the warfare that we're up against is so, oh, well, you're obsessed. You really should. This is negative. You shouldn't think about it so much. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's this kind of run away, run away. The problem will solve itself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but that's not how adults operate. You know, that's not how things get fixed in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's just, I'm sorry it's an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. But in the end, if we lie to ourselves, we're just going to get deeper into the shit. Look how fucking deep we are already. There was some guy that, it was, I need to like write these things down, but there was a recent case in the news where it was another one of these congressional hearings, and some dude in the audience started shouting out, something to the effect of like, "Stop spending tax dollars on Israel. You know, Israel is bombing and slaughtering all these people, and it's our money that's going to it, and you fuckers are the ones giving them the money." And Israel, and it was exposing the Jews basically by yelling this out. And
Mm-hmm.
then they had him removed, and then whoever was running the court case was like, "Okay, yes, the thing that man said is actually, it's from China. It's China that is behind this, and yes, China, 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 China." And then, okay, and now back to our bullshit hearing, where we pretend to be a real legitimate government, blah blah blah. And I don't know, dude. It's just I don't know. It does get maddening living in Zog. There's something maddening about having to live a lie, which is maybe why we do this show. Like, there's, yes, it does make you angry, and yes, it is toxic, and there's a certain threat to one's kind of health in a way to have to be in this toxic environment all the time. But what's the alternative? Anyone know?
I mean, you could self lobotomize, I guess, and just
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
be
Just
happy with
go to your local weed depository or
yeah.
suppository, whatever, and like just weed yourself out, or do
I'm
ketamine all the time, or
I'm self medicating.
yeah, or like have become like hippie spirituality, where don't tell me anything true because I need to be in a little bubble in order to be happy. All this horse shit. But anyway, welcome to Zog. All right, how about let's have a happy moment here and talk about kittens and bunnies. Let's just kind of palate cleanser. Anyway,
uh hmm.
I just did a rant there. I'm sorry. So let me read some chat. That'll help us out a
No, I
little bit
liked your
here.
rant. It
Do you?
brought up a lot of thoughts for me, but they're not
Okay.
positive.
Well, I mean, again, it's like, because you have to know the truth. So Hippocratic Oath says your Grabler accent is getting really good. I need to work on mine. That's cool. I appreciate that. Thanks. Hippocratic Oath says marriages used to be arranged. It was not associated with love. The average age of consent for the 13 colonies was 12 years old. Obviously, kids were not making a decision on who to marry at 12. A Victorian time traveler says it just started raining and the smell coming off the trees is unbelievable. Ah! Now that's a palate cleanser right there. That's nice. I love that. The freshness of spring, the wet
Hmm.
earth. Oh God, it feels so good.
I was
Anyway,
just thinking that when I walked outside earlier,
oh,
it had just rained. I didn't notice, and
mm,
yeah, that dewy sort of
that's nice. After a long
smell.
winter.
Oh yeah.
American Counter Rev says the audio's fine now. Never mind. Maybe I just needed to refresh. Victorian time traveler says that's why Mormons don't have problems with priests. We don't have a paid clergy, and no one is expected to be celibate. I mean, we used to practice polygamy, for heaven's sake. Wow, that's got a big old wow to it. I gotta grab some water because I've been ranting too much. So you're gonna have to take the mic from here for just a second.
Oh man,
You're on your
you
own.
touched on something, and now I totally have just forgotten. It left my brain what I was going to talk about.
Uh,
But the Oh my gosh, I just completely forgot what I was going to say. Unfortunately, but yeah, it was what is it? They control us through narratives. They control us through the media. They study us for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you're gonna have to come back because I totally forgot.
Okay. Hang on. Hold on. All right. I have like a water bottle and I just can't find the damn thing. Anyway, so I just did a massive barrage of like, shit basically. And like, I'm really
Could
good at
you
that actually. But,
could what were you talking? Can you repeat sort of
okay.
or
Recap. Let's try to
yeah, do
recap
a
a little bit.
recap because for some
So
reason my brain just
don't worry, don't worry, don't
erased.
worry. Don't worry, don't worry. So like I was saying that, they study us like animals to control our breeding and our thinking and our
Yes.
population and yada yada yada. So was that the thing,
So
or
yeah, so
yeah? Okay.
it's interesting to me just sort of you think of like ontological evil and you
Mm-hmm.
can't and it's a very egoish thing to project our own values onto other people or how we see the world assuming people have the ability of empathy and stuff like that like but
Right.
the
Right.
to be so calculating
Mm-hmm.
and for such a long time and even
Yes.
create
Yes.
an
Yes.
entire system in group system around
Mm-hmm.
um, having a program of like in group preference and then how to deal with the out group and you even have like a derogatory name from for them which is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your entire everybody in your all your people call them the goyim.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody, all Jews know what the goyim is. Like they say that they're not a monolith. Oh, Jews aren't a monolith, but they
Yeah.
really are.
Oh God. Yeah.
They're even if they get it through osmosis or don't know like the plan overall. Like
Mm.
they know what they're doing, and really it just comes down to that they know that they're doing something. What they're doing is advocating for their own selves
Right.
and do going against us. But like who does that? Who looks at another
Yeah.
group of people as a natural
Not
resource?
a none. I mean, I don't like. I don't know of anybody, any other kind of people that does exactly that. Um, oh man.
I think it's sociopathic. I think it's a
Oh,
and,
fucking massively, dude.
and
Hugely,
it's hard to say that an entire
hugely.
people
Yeah.
is a people of sociopaths. Like, well,
Right.
you can't. That's anti-Semitic. You can't
Right.
do
Right.
that. That's
Right.
closed-minded. That's
Yeah.
who hurt
It's
you.
yeah. 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 It almost seems illogical. You know what I'm saying? But like the more you study the data, and there's many people over centuries who've been fucking warning us about this. Over
Yeah,
centuries. Fucking centuries, man. Even just in the past 100 years, there's, people that have been writing about this and shit. Let alone hundreds of years. So like if the pattern's been going on for centuries, like, and that's part of the thing of it is like you try to talk about this problem with just anybody, even people who have enough IQ to kind of navigate the situation, and even to them they're like, I don't know, it still seems kind of, this just can't be real. Well, sorry bitch, it is real. It's fucked up. Shit's fucked up big time.
yeah.
um
It's hard to. It's. I mean, unless you make a study of it, that's the problem. Is that a lot of people don't have the time or the
yeah,
wherewithal to. And
exactly.
there's a reason why after World War II, the first thing they did was acquire the New York Times
Oh
and take over
man.
the media because
Oh my
they
god.
get
Oh,
their power through narrative control.
you fucking nailed it, bro. You nailed it. Like Hollywood and all of that. I mean, it's all this, the music industry. Um, and this kind of brings us back to why the arts are important. That certainly plays a big role in it. It's not the whole picture, but it's a large picture. You know,
Hmm.
and so like what we do is really vital, even though you know maybe people don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what the common person thinks, but
Well, everybody
It,
thinks so because everybody lives in art. Everybody's consuming art, even if it's just TV shows. Everybody's consuming
entertainment.
narratives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's well
It's what
done.
we
That's well
do.
said. So that's the thing is like there's certain people that they don't want to watch TV with me, you know, because like within 10 seconds I'm like that fucking da 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 da, and I'll just I just like rip into shit all the time. Whenever I'm in like a doctor's office or wherever, like those, or like waiting room anywhere, and if I'm with somebody, I will purposefully like decode what's on TV for all
Yeah.
those people in the room, and it makes people really uncomfortable. So like I know I shouldn't laugh, but like it's so awesome because I'm like, how else are they ever gonna know? How are they ever gonna know? Because they're stuck in the matrix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Not
Um,
they're stuck in the everyday fog of life, and
yeah,
they're
I
not
know.
gonna become a curmudgeon like you, or
Yes, who knows how to rant and do a good Jewish accent from Brooklyn?
But I think that for those paying attention, I think, or just regular people, I think what they are trying to do is this project of
Mhm.
socially engineering us to be like them. Like you see, what's that Dexter? That show Dexter, like the the Bennett, the the good natured sociopath serial killer,
Oh, I know the
or
one you're talking about. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
Dexter. That's a
or
that's a cool concept.
they give us endless horrible sadistic movies so that we can enjoy them
Mm,
and
mm.
enjoy what you're doing is you're programming yourself to be
Yeah,
a sadist or a
yeah.
masochist, whoever you identify with in any given scene. But
Oh,
they
yeah. Go
promote
ahead.
this kind of stuff to,
Right.
I think, socially engineer us to be like them, and therefore, Israel is our concern, and we are no different than them, and so on.
Oh, it's. There's just so much that I could say on the topic, and it's just so maddening, though. You know what I mean? The whole thing is so maddening.
It's
Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well,
The fact that they got to this point is maddening.
mhm,
But I mean, there's something about us, and I think that it has a lot to do with us identifying with them and their stories. And just over
mm,
time, I mean, they have a long term project. I mean,
mhm.
for me, I think it's their blood memory of the first genocide, which was the Cro-Magnons kicking them out of Europe. But that's my own sort of pet theory.
My understanding is it's revenge for Rome sacking the temple twice. and
Yep.
and that to me is because I mean I've literally heard rabbis talk about how you know
Edom.
they're gonna, yeah, we have to get revenge on Esau and Edom, and
Hmm.
like, and it's very very literally Old Testament in their mind, like they're living in the fucking Old Testament, and
Oh
like
yeah.
we are the Romans in their minds, like how they define us is extremely important, and we don't define ourselves the way they define us, obviously. I wish we were the fucking Romans, I mean, shit. um but yeah, these are the issues, people
Revenge
should
is. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead, your turn.
Well, I was just going to say real quickly, I think revenge is an interesting kind of thing because it's not in me to hold a grudge. I mean, I get mad when people do me wrong and try to, destroy my life or something.
Yeah,
But over
yeah,
time, I,
move on. Yeah,
I move on. I
yeah.
find a way to not blame myself, but see how I am at fault in allowing this person into my life or something. But I have experienced people who want revenge on people. I've had people take revenge on
Mm,
me for perceived slights, and it's like, all right,
yeah,
I don't. I think that revenge in and of itself is, you know, it satiates that need for a creation, but it's so not. I don't know. It. I lost my train of thought because because certainly, like, the pagan Vikings sought revenge, so it's not alien to us. But at
Well,
the same time, it's like, just what you get out of this world is, the destruction of people who have slighted you or something.
I guess to me, I see it as a gigantic, like the most profound case of neurosis in human history, to like take, you know, something that happened that long ago and build an entire religion out of it,
Right. Yes.
and and to and to have planned and worked over centuries for this revenge, that this mission has been passed on over fucking centuries. Like, imagine the mental illness, the level of mental illness to have to be able to do that, to carry that on, that
And
mission.
it's
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not just about revenge, it's about control, because the whole purpose of, or the whole reason why they're seeking revenge, is because they were trying to get control over an entire, the alien population, the goyim.
Yeah.
And they weren't allowed, they were thwarted, and they weren't, given that right to rule over them, and that is the injustice. That's their injustice that they've, like, I think that is what
Yeah,
I'm trying to get at with people. It's like, I was supposed to control you and own you,
yeah,
and you.
because I'm the chosen people and you're a cattle, you know.
Yeah, it's an entitlement. It's like
Yes,
an insane entitlement.
you're very, very, very right. That is a really, really cutting point that you're making there. What are you gonna do? I mean, the obsession with the Aryan, like, I don't know what to say, but it's there, it exists, and it's so deeply codified into who they are. I mean, to my understanding, a lot of the Jewish holidays, if you want to call them that, or religious
Hmm.
days, are days of remembrance of times when they were slaughtered or pushed out of a certain land.
Yep.
And like, you got to kind of think about that. If like every single holiday in Christianity was when some other country slaughtered our people, you think about that. Like, what would you think of yourself? What narrative is that to live by? It's pretty bad. It's
Yeah.
pretty
This
bad.
day, on this day, we celebrate when we slaughtered X amount of your ancestors.
Uh,
It's like, oh, I celebrate, Easter, springtime.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just
I
it's
celebrate, when nature changes a little.
Well, I'm not an expert on like Jewish holidays or whatever, so I can't say too much about that. But that's just what I've heard. It's funny because an old I had a Jewish friend. Oh God, going on like 15 years ago, and out of nowhere he got back in touch with me a couple of weeks ago. Sent me an email, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, if you only knew who I've become, like, wow.
Oh, he didn't know. It wasn't
Oh,
a
no, no, no. I mean,
like a reprimand.
right, I wasn't Donald Kent when he knew me, and I mean, there was a side of me that was like, is he emailing me because he like found me online and he wants to, like, sneak into my life and try to, control me, psyop me. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes,
it
get close to
literally,
you for that reason,
yeah, like,
for that
my friend,
purpose.
let's have a talk, you know. And I actually had another Jewish friend do that to me. This is a guy I knew in college, back when Trump was coming in, and this is, again, I'm not for Trump anymore, but I was in like 2016. And like, the guy took me out to dinner, and he really wanted to talk to me. Yeah, I really want to straighten you out. I want to see what's going on here. Blah, 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 blah. And at the time, I had no idea what was happening to me. I had no idea like what he was up to, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And looking back, I'm like, wow, that was fucking weird. That was really, really creepy. He's just like, oh, I'm gonna keep tabs on you.
He was probing you to see,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
think
man.
of the narcissistic women I've been in relationships with. They study
Yeah.
you, and
Yes.
they pack all that stuff away, and they have, really great memories when it comes to what you've
Hmm.
told them, months
Hmm.
ago about yourself personally. And
Yes, yes.
then it all comes rushing back to be weaponized against you at certain
That's dark.
times.
It's
And
very
it's,
dark. Yeah, I know that experience.
yes.
Like it's almost like they're masters of like torture in a sense, like psychological torture. They, when you're in a situation and you're under duress, and then
Yep.
they crafted some kind of weapon against you all this time, based on something that you trusted them with, and
Hmm.
then they fucking stab you with it, and like, and you're so taken aback by it, like, how could you do this to me? I thought you loved me. It's like, that's one of the darkest things ever, is to be like, oh, I love you, and now I'm gonna hurt you, and I'm
It's a
actually gonna enjoy hurting you. It's sick.
it's dark because it's like, what are you getting out of this? I don't. I mean, is it
Yeah,
just for the
yeah,
just
yeah,
for the thrill of the sadism because of me
right,
letting you in and trusting you and like
right, right, right.
letting down the walls, and then for you to betray me like that. But that I think goes back to childhood because they're doing a power play. Like
Mm,
they had been treated like that when they were vulnerable, and I think as kids you are very trusting, just
yeah.
as a matter of nature. And then later you're like, wow, that parent got one over on me and outsmarted me, and it's just like, why is that parent outsmarting a
You're
child?
you're very right. And then they grow up learning those tricks, and they don't trust people innately. That's very damaging. Let me read a little chat here. We got Counter Rev says the Eastern Orthodox also allow married men to become priests, although if one is already a priest, then I believe they can't marry. Hippocratic Oath says, I liked how they've always been tattlers. Tattlers. They are tattling. They told Caligula that the Egyptians were thinking about rebelling, and Caligula said, so you people don't eat pork? Hmm, interesting.
Oh yeah, they're
Uh,
always triangulating. That's another narcissistic
wow.
strategy.
Wow. Wow. So Hippocratic Oath says Nebuchadnezzar the second of Babylon destroyed the first temple, but do they ever talk about Babylon? Interesting, interesting.
Mm.
That's a good point too. On top of it,
I mean,
I
Babylon is the great evil.
right, in the Bible anyway.
Yeah.
Ah, crazy times, guys. Crazy
Uh,
time.
According to Charles Giuliani, who I referenced last time about the JFK stuff,
Okay.
he he considers like the Tower of Babel to be a metaphor for them constructing or taking over a civilization, and the Babel it the the Tower of Babel to heaven would be like the completion like thereof of like their total takeover of Babylon, but they
Wow.
were they were denied that they were thwarted in their efforts, and then that's when they communicated to Cyrus that they're being all this kind of mistreated, and so Cyrus comes in, who already had an issue with the Babylonians, and freed them, and then once he freed them they didn't leave anyways because they weren't done studying the Babylonians.
Interesting. Huh, that's wild. Yeah, that's interesting. That's another cool thing about this community is, you know, I'll meet people that know all kinds of interesting shit that I don't know, and bring something to the table and say, oh well, in 12 AD, blah 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 blah, and
Yeah.
you learn so much cool stuff being around people that are so well informed, you know.
Well,
Go ahead.
it's interesting that they just are absent from history. And really, when you plug them into history, everything starts to make sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like it's an ethnic battle. Like who a striker said, the only people that know what's going on are Jews and Nazis.
Mm. Yeah, that I think he's quoting somebody there. I think I've heard that somewhere before, but that's a powerful thing to say. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
mean, I totally agree with that as well. You know, um, it's interesting. Hmm. Let's see if there's nothing else there. Uh, it's daunting. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing is quite daunting because I had a phone call before the show, and my buddy, who's a very very dear friend, trusted friend, he gets it. He gets it. You know, he knows what's going on, but his angle as a friend is like he's worried about me that like this is unhealthy to be so deep into this stuff. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
And I'm kind of grappling with that right now, just in life ish, in terms of like, yeah, it is, but at the same time, I don't know, like, what's the alternative? Like, to just walk away, give up, pretend it doesn't exist. What's the fucking alternative?
yeah,
Once you can't unsee it, you can't unknow it,
yeah. For me, it's
So,
like, what else is there to talk about? I don't know. I mean, it's the real
honestly,
issue.
yeah, man, it's the issue of all time. It's like an epoch issue. It's
Yep.
beyond just now. It's beyond Trump and topical politics. It's literally a battle of civilization. um there's a lot of shit going down the pipeline here as well, because a lot of the people in the UFO world are making some big claims
Yeah.
about, like the Nephilim coming back and how this ties into the Jews, that they're already kind of preparing for this. Blah 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 blah. I mean, a lot of the stuff is obviously difficult to prove or what have you. But there's enough there. There's enough meat on the bone to say like I believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's enough there, if you will.
Yeah, Richard Spencer's in the show now. I like that.
Yeah,
Like
that's probably yeah. That's
he came up with that, I guess. I don't know. I've never like I met did I mention that on this show? Because I said that recently. Like I
I
love
know.
Richard.
I remember listening to his podcast, and he'd always put a bookmark in it or a
Yeah,
pin in it.
you're right. At the end of the show, okay, let's put a bookmark in it. Like, yeah, I really miss the old Richard Spencer, man. I mean, those were great times.
Those were great times. I
Yeah.
miss. Yeah, I do miss the alt right days
Oh,
before it
big
was a psyop
yeah.
where they took it over. But I mean, right now, to talk about your friend being concerned about you,
Yeah.
like there really is reason for concern. Like they are going after people for anti-Semitism, and like so far it's just students that had organized
Yes. Yes.
um,
Against,
rallies.
yeah, like pro-Palestinian rallies.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
they're
like,
not.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that they're not. They're not charging them with any crimes, and they're going after them in broad daylight. They're not going to their house because they don't have warrants because they don't have. They're
Yeah.
not charging them with any crimes.
Right. Right. It's a political persecution.
Yep.
Um, I guess from the latest that I've seen, that how do I say this? It's unconstitutional to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if a lot of it is really ultimately just harassment. It's like a like rattle the sword kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like,
Official.
yeah, something to that effect. When I first heard about laws against anti-Semitism, I kind of flipped out. I was like, holy fuck, I got to look this up, because the whole dissident right would be in jail right now.
Right.
And obviously, I think the word anti-Semitism is bullshit. It's like the word racism and stuff like that. It's just an invented Marxist word to
Yep.
stop you from criticizing the Jews. There's no real anti-Semitism. Um, it's like the word homophobia. Fear of sameness. It's like all of these dialectics are just ways to silence people from the Jews' agenda, which they invented. So
Yeah.
going back, point is, I looked it up, went to the government site, checked it out, and you know, it just was like very, very specific that they're gonna shut down students, foreign students, not even Americans, but foreign students that organize pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses. It's extremely specific, so it's like going after mainly Muslims who are
Hmm.
probably Palestinians, or at least sympathetic to them. I have a Palestinian friend. He's a Christian Palestinian, but he's a very, very close friend of mine, the guy from work. And like, I turned him on to the JQ and everything. And I mean, he kind of already knew that shit. Being Palestinian, you of course know about the Jews, right? I mean, they probably know more about the Jews than most people
Oh
do.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Anyone on the planet right now because of just the
when I
ongoing.
Yeah, I should rephrase that. Not that I turned him on to the JQ, but rather I showed him how it's implanted in the United States government, and how
Yep.
like Trump is a Trojan horse and all that other shit. So that's what I, kind of opened up that side of the psyop or whatever. But oh man, oh god,
It's Zog. It
yeah,
is
dude, I
Zog.
know. I mean, my view is that like America is Gaza. There's really no borders according to the Jews. You know what I'm saying? They're international, the international clique, as Uncle A would call them. And
Yeah.
there's no stopping them from using anything that they have, any tools they have, like, satellite lasers, for example, um, in any and all forms of silencing, which are covert. What the CIA has been doing to other countries for years, meaning like killing people and setting up, puppet leaders and shit. They're doing that in America, and you
Oh
get what
yeah.
that's so like. It's just
Puppet
it's
Leader 1 or Puppet Leader 2.
Yeah, and it's like the whole right left dichotomy now is kind of dissolving because of that. If I don't know, I'm not that much in touch with the left, especially since I just lost like a close friend who was like a lefty. I know that sounds weird, but anyway, like I'm out of touch with what they know. I know they're against bombing Palestine. I know that, but I tried to
Yeah.
talk to one of them about it, and I brought up the Jews in Israel, and she lost her mind. She was like, "Oh no, you're conflating things and you're overgeneralizing. We have to be careful. It's a slippery slope. Otherwise, we'll lose our humanity." I'm
It's
like,
not
where
Jews,
the
it's Zionists.
yeah, or it's not that we're all human beings, man. We're all
Mm.
one, and like, and you can't be judgmental because we're all one, man. Ugh, it's exhausting.
You're just not being objective because if you were being objective, you'd see that no one else gets
So
away with
yeah, it's
bombing a cancer
yeah,
clinic.
it's it's a bubble. They live in a bubble, and anybody who threatens the bubble with the truth is bad. Is bad, bad, bad. You know what I'm saying? And they must be canceled.
Well, they're speaking from a place of ideology that if they went against would, potentially ostracize them from their community. So they have to go, they got
Yeah,
to do the human rights. We're all
that's
human, we can't
yes,
acknowledge what they're doing because then they would, you would justifiably be correct in saying that they should be punished and
yeah,
stopped.
yes, exactly. It's fucking exactly what they should be punished for sure. Um. Anyway, we're gonna need a lot of rope. That's all I know. It's sorry. That's like,
But
yeah,
just I think that what they're doing is sort of creating precedents in the same way that they did with the Patriot Act. Like, well, we're just going after the terrorists. We're just going after Muslims. It's
yeah,
like but that one guy, the first guy that they went after, isn't a visa holder. He's an American citizen, and he's
right.
married to an American citizen. So
Okay.
they're trying really desperately to get this through. And once they get that precedent,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, I'm an
Well,
American. I can say whatever the hell I want.
it's a slippery slope. All of this is just the setup for the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. you
Hmm.
know, and we're not far down the line. That's all I gotta say. Like, we're not far down the line. So how that pans out, I don't know. I don't know yet. You know. Oh, other than it's disturbing, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard living in the apocalypse.
It's well
Life's
said, my
rough.
very well said, my man. Let's see. We got a couple comments here. Let's read them up. Hold on, hold on. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, let's read some comments. We got Mr. American Counter Rev says, no offense, but the Tower of Babylon was prevented long before Cyrus the Great. Prevented.
Oh, okay.
Okay. From being completed is what he said. Okay. Victorian time traveler, only Jays and Nazis know what's going on. Lol. That made me laugh. I, Oaf says, I'd like to hear more from Lord Zog about Cro-Magnon versus Neanderthals. Well, there you go, bro. Let me just finish the chat,
Oh, you
and
really
then
call
you
me
you
Lord Zog?
you can get
Thanks.
into that. Yes, yes. Kneel before Zog. So Hippocratic Oath says the Canary mission has gone after the dissident rights
Yes.
in the past. Canary mission. I don't know what is the Canary mission. I never heard of that. Is that the Jews?
They're
I don't know what that
Yeah, they're
means.
kind of like the ADL. They make lists of well-known anti-Semites, or if not well-known, then prominent, influencers that speak out against them. And so
I've
they,
never heard of them. Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Surprised. Anyway, but at the moment they are helping DHS find anti-Semitic foreign students. This is
yep.
what I'm saying. It's all one fucking thing. Like, this is what I mean. America is not America. We're under foreign occupation. You know
We
what I'm saying?
exist in service to
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 Zog.
Israel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So going back then, could you speak on Cro-Magnon versus Neanderthals, sir?
Oh yeah. I, I- uh, for at length, if you'd like. No, I have videos on my TikTok. I discovered this theory, or I first heard about hybridization theory from Robert Sepper.
Okay.
And I was curious as to why he never mentioned the Neanderthals, because I remember also hearing about how Jews descend from Neanderthals, and then comparing pictures of prominent Jews like Rothschilds and skull
Mm,
shapes to
yeah.
that of Neanderthals,
Okay.
and I thought that that just made sense. And then Robert Sepper mentions hybridization theories, and his example was the Denisovans, which is a cousin to the Neanderthals, mostly concentrated in Asia. And
Okay.
when you compare the skulls of um, a Denisovan, you get the phenotype of an Asian person. And so I'm like,
Okay.
well, that's where it comes from. That's the origin of race.
Okay.
We retain traits from our hominid ancestors, and when you compare whites, Aryans to Cro-Magnon, Cro-Magnon are very they have rectangular skulls like boxes, and very
Okay.
prominent foreheads,
Okay.
and they say that they're the precursors to the modern humans, and from them we get Homo sapiens. But then gets kind of murky there.
Mm,
I believe that the Cro-Magnon are the giants that they try to control the evolutionary timeline, and they try to fit it into they're out of Africa, and that we come from apes kind of thing,
yeah.
and they just push everything into they put the square peg into the round hole,
Right.
so to
Right.
speak.
Okay.
But I they find these giants, and Cro-Magnon, were at average 7 foot tall, and they lived in Europe, and they appeared suddenly around 35,000 years ago in
Okay.
France
Hmm.
in a cave. Uh, I think the cave is called Cro-Magnon, and that's why they're called
Oh,
Cro-Magnon.
interesting. Interesting. Okay.
And
Okay.
they lived alongside Neanderthals, who were actually there first.
Okay.
And at some point, I read a book. There's two books that I've read. It's called Neanderthal Predation Theory,
Yeah.
which is the idea that Neanderthals actually were cannibalistic in the sense that they preyed upon Cro-Magnon and ate them when they
Okay.
could.
Yes.
And then The other one is The Invaders, and it talks about how Homo sapiens um, ran the Neanderthal out of Europe with the help of their wolf dogs. And so,
Oh wow.
wolves or dogs come from wolves, and they
Hmm.
were aligned with the Cro-Magnon. I don't believe in Homo sapiens. I believe in Cro-Magnon,
Okay.
A- and and it's very mysterious. I'm open to information
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and everything, but as far as I can tell, the Cro-Magnons just suddenly appeared, and they had the neo prefrontal cortex, you know, uh, already installed, which
Hmm.
was sort of an innovation that was unique to them all those years ago.
Hmm.
And so, anyways, yeah, they were attacked by these trolls, like these beast men, kind of like the Vendel from Beowulf,
Oh wow.
uh, and they were basically genocided and ran out of Europe into the Caucasus Mountains,
Hmm.
modern day Israel, where we find a lot the many hybridized um, examples of hybridized, between Homo sapien or Cro-Magnon with the Neanderthal in the caves of the Caucasus Mountains and
Okay.
Gibraltar as well.
Huh.
So, um, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. But
Hmm.
that memory of them being genocided, I believe, is just like we have blood memory. They do as well. And then you sort of get into their lore about themselves, and they talk about the Watchers, and I believe who's watching who's studying who, like
Hmm. Hmm.
who's with their like Neanderthals. They have like you've heard of the Semitic smile. Like Neanderthals have more teeth, and like they obviously had like these very large, almost clownish smiles,
Hmm.
and large eyes because their eye sockets are very large. And I would contend, like the book by Danny Vandermeene, the Neanderthal predation theory,
Hmm.
he thinks that they look more like gorillas, but if they evolved in cold climates, then
Hmm.
they wouldn't just have an open nose like gorillas do
I see.
in the Amazon. They would have a casing, like a long, elongated
Yeah.
sort of nose, and
Yeah.
so that's where you get your phenotype, the
Fascinating.
Jewish phenotype.
That's so fascinating. Wow.
And in Africa, you get other hominids such as like Homo erectus, and I don't have to tell you, when you compare the Homo erectus skull
Oh yeah.
to an African, it's spot on.
I just saw, what was it? Oh my god, this meme is insane. I have it on my phone. It's like one of the most dangerous memes you could have. It's a woman in politics who's like she's like, I don't know all their fucking names. She's a black woman who has, she's not, her head isn't shaved, but it's really short, kind of a bit longer on top, and she's one of these bitches that like has been stealing tax money in the millions and blah 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 blah, the
Oh,
usual
of
shit.
course.
Anyway, she's in the news. They caught her. Doge figured out what she was doing, and so she was in the news. Anyway, there's like a photograph of her turned sideways talking, and somebody took a photo of a skull of one of like an ape or something, and then like made it like halfway opaque or whatever, lowered the opacity, and grafted it right over her head, and it fits exactly the same. It's like exactly the same skull shape. It's fucking scary. So you see shit like that. I guess, I don't know who knows this or not, but it's understood that blacks do have something like 19% of what they call the ghost gene, which is
Mm.
some kind of ancient hominid. It's like some sort of hominid. That's all I can say. So whereas like whites have, I think, 6% Neanderthal genes or something. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I don't really. Um, Maybe it's just my own bias, but I mean, you can fake that stuff. Like the
Okay.
23andMe, that story about the 23andMe.
With the
He
lizards and stuff. That one.
the guy that owned 23andMe was a Jew, and he put like point 0.2 Ashkenazi in like everybody,
Oh, really?
just to erase racism, like was his rationale. So I don't
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Maybe I am confirming my own because yeah, I've heard 5% Neanderthal, but I mean that's a possibility. Um, that that I don't believe that Cro-Magnon would voluntarily mate with the Neanderthal, because if you look at
Mhm.
Cro-Magnon, their the body types are very different, and Neanderthal just looks like a monster, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They have different rib cages. They're just built differently. They had they were hairy. Um,
Okay.
but that the idea of them doing raids and stealing women and children,
Oof.
and then mating with them, and then through over time hybridizing and looking more like us, and then finding out that to infiltrate us and so on.
Wow.
It's a theory.
It's interesting. It's an interesting theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Hippocratic oath. You got a nice lesson on that. It was very interesting. Let's read. Wow, lots of chat. Lots. The Canary mission. We read that. Victorian time traveler says we are a mix of Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon. Jews are a Central Asian people. Okay. Hippocratic Oath says Cro-Magnon also have high sexual dimorphism. Sexual
Okay.
dimorphism. I don't know what dimorphism means. If someone could throw me a definition there.
I believe that they the women look very much different from the men.
So
Like
here he's saying the females were much smaller than the males, as opposed to blacks, where there's little need for a height difference. Interesting.
yes.
Um, Black women can be very masculine, that's for sure. Truth is our reality. Hello, Donald and chat. Welcome, welcome. I just arrived and we're talking about low hanging ears on Chase. Victorian says Neanderthal predaton hypothesis is trollop. Wow. Okay. And
Does
Truth
that mean not
says,
true?
I guess so.
Okay.
Truth is our reality. Imagine being partly extinct. Oh, wow. I'm thinking of a parallel present scenario. Wow.
I mean,
Die.
we're only 6% of the world population at this point. Whites are
Whites
so.
are only 6% now. We used to be like 11, and now we're 6.
I've heard. Yeah, I heard 6 was the last figure I heard.
Victorian time traveler. That means that male and female are very different. Okay.
Yeah.
Measures of distance. Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Whew. Wilds. And tell me what are you doing with your artwork there, bro? What's
I
happening
got
with your
Well, I'm kind of self-conscious about my comics recently because I want to do a like a joke, like a setup and a punchline, and I realize that I kind of just do a caricature
Okay.
and then just make fun of them for being whatever particularly
All right. Yeah.
I don't like about them,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
biting. But I'd like to do a 4 panel, get back to doing like 4 panel strips. But yeah, this is RFK talking about how anti-Semitism is a public health crisis, as if that makes any sense
You know,
whatsoever.
it's fucked up how, like, I mean, his wife unalived herself. I don't know if you know the story about that. I haven't. I don't have
No.
all the details on it, but his wife was found hung. She was friends with Max Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know how to pronounce her stupid name.
Hmm.
Ghislaine
Oh,
Lizard, whatever.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, yeah. She was friends with her,
Oh, there
and
you go.
then found herself unalived. I mean, that guy's had 3 people in his family, if including her, unalived, and
Yeah.
so like you can't. I just, you know what I mean? It's like I know he wants. I feel like he really does want to do the right thing, but he's got a gun to his head. You know what I'm saying? That's the feeling I get. I don't know if anyone agrees with that. Because like there's been before the election when he was like a Democrat and running against Trump, he had lots. I mean, holy shit. really, really, really focused a lot on the jab and all of that shit, and like he's coming out talking very openly, very well informed about the problem of the jab, and I'm like, okay, well then this is, to an extent, this is our guy, if he's able to talk openly against the narrative about this, okay. But then, the Shmooly and this and there's slow mo and this and that, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
anti-Semitism, a health crisis. How does that even make sense as a sentence? It's a health crisis. Like they can say any fucking thing. The sky is green and the grass is blue. If you deny that, we're gonna put you in jail.
Well,
That's the world we live in.
if you remember the COVID days during the lockdowns and they were doing the BLM protests, the
Oh,
real
yeah.
virus was racism. So
That's right. That's a good point that you remembered that. They're like, yeah, racism is a public health issue. Oh, I mean, you wonder why I'm in this. It's like when you've had the shit kicked out of you for years at a fucking time, and like nobody's doing anything about it, and you're like the only sane person in a world of blindness. You just keep screaming, and that's what I'm doing, basically. Let's see. Hippocratic Oath says, "I think trollop means whore, like Lord Zorg
just read that.
will not be pleased." He's saying that it means poppycock or bullshit.
Yeah, I
Hippocratic
figure.
Oath, yeah. Oath says 5% if you exclude John Delarose and Nick. I lost the context of what that is, but anyway, whatever. Ah, I tell you. Well, good luck with this new direction. I think, and I could see you doing well in either, if it's just like one panel or four panels. I tend to be more into four panels. I like to feel a sense like there's a delivery, where
Yeah.
like a setup and a punchline, or a setup and a delivery. There's like a conclusion to a little story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I end up doing a Sunday strip instead of a daily when I
There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I also the one panel ones are easy to get. Like this is just a I did this in the like in 40 minutes when I thought we were going on at 8,
Mm.
so sometimes it's good to just push myself to get something. But my real aim, I would really love to get this done. Or not done, but because I don't want to focus on just having it done because then I miss doing it. But this is sort of my main focus is the clowns of the apocalypse.
Mm.
So
Wow. Well, I'm going to give the audience a sneak peek of Militia Man. The shit hits the fan in Militia Man. And I'll give you guys a look at what it is in 10 seconds here. I got to get the pages assembled. A lot of the pages are penciled, so you can't see them that well. But I'll just give you a little show, and just give me a minute. Okay, so um, all right, let me back out a bit. So we've got Jacob Sharp, who is it's kind of like the main man at Judeo-Christian News, and he's come to visit Militia Man's wife with a bouquet of flowers and a card that says, Judeo-Christian News on it, and he's visiting her to express his condolences that her husband, Militia Man, has died. But she knows that he's still alive, but she doesn't know that Sharp doesn't know that she knows or doesn't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? Probably not. Um, he knows. They both know that Militia Man's alive, but she is supposed to kind of keep it quiet because like she doesn't know what's going on, and he's investigating her to see what she knows. Like, where is he? So he comes under the pretense that I'm here to send my condolences, and I'm so sorry your husband died. He was a close friend, blah blah blah. And so there's this little mind game going on between them where he's trying to read her, but she can't really hide her expressions that well. and she's very nervous about it. And she's like, well, I really don't want, any guests right now. I'm grieving. I'm still pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to force his way into the house. He's kind of attracted to her as well, being a scumbag. Um, but she, kind of pushes her hand on him, like, no, don't come in. I'm blah, 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 blah. And you can see his face. He's like seeing right through her. He can tell that she's stressed out. She's lying. He's sort of interrogating her. She doesn't quite know what to say. And then in the end, he's like, oh, well, no worries. Don't worry about it. You take a rest. It's good to see you. I'm just, give me a call anytime you need any help. And he walks away, and she kind of peeks out of the doorway at him leaving. And she's very concerned. So he's walking by this truck, and there's a man in the truck. Not Benjamin. Jacob Sharp leans into the truck and says, "Make it look like a suicide." And so next, a little later, Militiaman is coming. Now this is where you can't see well because it's penciled. He's flying home to visit his pregnant wife. Kind of a secret thing, but he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm getting, I've just joined Fash Force, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Like, they killed all the MAGA Force guys, and honey, I'm home. Hey, hello, hey, it's me. Hi, I'm here. How we doing? And honey, and he gets kind of like a close up of his face. Are you okay?" And in the next page, and again, I don't know how well you're gonna see this with shitty light. See if I can get more light on this. Oh, there, hopefully. She's had her wrist cut, and then she's beat up a little bit. She's bleeding all over the place,
Oh man.
miscarriaging, and then there's these screaming faces like all around her that basically represent him realizing that she was murdered, but it looks like she killed herself. And he knows she wouldn't kill herself. He knows that she was killed. So he didn't lose just his wife, but he also lost his unborn child. And then you have this moment where he's like losing his mind, and he's crying, and you can see his eyes are closed, but when he opens his eyes, they're all black. And what happens is Militiaman he's not just a man. He's like there's something more. His father is a priest, or not a priest, an angel, and he becomes kind of like a dark angel. He like the pain of this experience transforms him, and then even like the symbol on his chest turns into like a, if you guys recognize that eagle from somewhere, I don't know if you remember that eagle. You might have seen it in some World War III or World War II documentaries. And so like the transformation of him from normie MAGA tard to who trusts the government to us has just begun. So the direction of Militiaman as a graphic novel is about to get mucho spicio. So get your fucking seatbelts on, baby. Because after all, who's gonna take down Noahide, right? If it's not one of our guys. You understand what I'm trying to say? Do you see the history is repeating itself here in this story? So there you go, and now you know. Fast Force, funny. So the name, I mean, basically the team that's Fast Force were previously members of MAGA Force, but they left. They quit. They defected because they figured out who was running MAGA Force, which means they're dissident right. So the dissident defectors, you could call them. But since they quit, the ZOG media uh, basically called them Fash Force, because they're, against MAGA Force. So they must be fascists. But I think that's a fun name. I think that's kind of a cool play on things. Anyway, let's read some chats. I don't, my battery is almost empty here in terms of like my energy for talking. So I think we're going to wrap it up shortly. It's getting late. I gotta go to work tomorrow. Yes, I work on Saturdays.
Me too. Oh my
Okay.
god.
Oh, okay. So Hippocratic Oath says, oh no, wait, I read that. Haha. Also, I think it means blah, blah, blah. Fast Force funny, a little picante. I don't know what picante means, so unfortunately, I can't respond to that. Hippocratic Oath says Mary Kennedy's fingers were found underneath the rope as if she didn't want to die. The Zog comic and Militiaman have parallels. See, there's a lot of parallels, bro. I mean, when people finally read this book, it's just got almost everything. Well, everything I could pack in there is in there somehow. And the thing is, like, we keep learning more and learning more and learning more, and I can't do it all, I guess. I don't know, but it's a really long graphic novel too. It's like 150 pages or more.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get it done.
And epic. Yeah.
I hope they don't like send a drone to kill me before I finish it. That would suck. But at least you guys have these YouTube videos. Picante means spice in Spanish. Okay, I don't speak Spanish, so mut picante, very spicy. Muy, okay. So I learned a new word today. It's sad that I think of Spanish as like a brown language when it's
Yeah.
actually a European language. Like I can't stand the sound of Spanish now. I just associate it with like foreign invaders, and criminals and parasites. That's all I can associate it with. It's like it gives me I don't know how to it like a fighter, like I want to fight kind of feeling. I don't know how to explain it. It's intimidating in a way. It's kind of loud, aggressive. Uh, the culture of it is not our culture. It's a kind of crude, mean spirited, barking kind of. That's what it sounds like to me. And I know that's not totally true, but it just feels that way. And I say that partly because I know a lot of people who speak Spanish, and through my knowing those people, I associate it with their behavior, and their behavior is not our norm. So that's 10 days next case. Yes, repugnant association. I know the feeling very well. It's kind of, again, it's sad because obviously Spanish is a European language, but like I can't disassociate it from like that. So we'll stop there. Anyway, sorry, Spanish speaking people. God bless you. I hope that you do well, but just don't parasite off my country. Any last comments or interesting Cro-Magnon things to say? um, Emperor Zog.
Ooh, I've been promoted to emperor now. I decree that people don't fall for Jewish tricks.
Yes, yes.
And
Learn our history, learn our narratives, become who you are. We love all the people who live in their own country. God bless them. That's what good nationalism is. May you do well in your own countries.
also, Jews aren't white.
Yes, and Jews are not white. Excellent, excellent. I mean, it's funny how like they only say they're white when it's convenient to do so, and then other times they turn around, right?
When it's time to blame them for something.
Yeah.
Or no, yeah, when it's time to blame them for something, they're white. When they have to distance themselves
I
from
know. It's
blame.
fucked up. It's so fucked up. Okay, and on that happy note, you guys have yourselves a good evening, day, afternoon, shapeshifters. Yes. So anyway, but I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming. Leave a comment, share, like, subscribe, buy my book, and keep your chin up. Okay, guys. I know a lot of this stuff is pretty negative and pretty hard to navigate, but we've been through a lot as a people over centuries. We've built civilizations. We created the modern world. We can fix this. We can save ourselves, and we will do it. So stay true, stay real, and God bless. And we'll see you next time.